In 1995, White Zombie released their fourth and final album, Astro Creep 2000. This became their most commercially successful album at the time. But why was that? Today, I want to talk about Astro Creep 2000 and why it was their most successful album. This video will be in three parts. First, I will give you some background on the album, then I'll do a track-by-track review, and finally, I will list 5 reasons why Astro Creep 2000 is their most successful album. First, let me give you a little background on the album. First of all, let me read the full title of the album, which is Astro Creep 2000 Songs of Love, Destruction, and Other Synthetic Delusions of the Electric Head. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to call it by its shorter name. The album was released on April 11, 1995. It's also celebrating 30 years, which is hard to believe this album came out 30 years ago. It was their most successful album. It peaked at number 6 on the Billboard 200 and had 2 big hit singles, which were More Human Than Human and Supercharger Heaven. This is also the only studio album to feature John Tempesta on drums. This is the follow-up to their previous album from 1992 called La Sexorcisto, Devil Music Volume 1, which had a few hits and was the album that opened the doors for them. But the album, like I said, had one lineup change and their longtime drummer Ivan de Prume left the band. So the band recruited former Exodus and Testament drummer John Tempesta. They also had the help of musicians who were in the industrial metal scene, such as the keyboards of Charlie Clouser, who had worked with artists like Nine Inch Nails and many others. And they also got a really good producer, who was Terry Date, the guy behind the success of Pantera, amongst other bands. The album took 3 months to write and another 3 to record. They began writing the album in June of 1994, and they finished the album by Christmas of 1994, so they were able to get it out by April of 1995. I'm going to go through the album now. The album has 11 tracks. It is 46 minutes long. The opening track is Electric Head Part 1, The Agony. This one starts with a soundbite from an old horror movie where someone says, "Perhaps you better start from the beginning." After this, they play some creepy keyboards that build up to the main song. This begins with this fast drum beat and a very heavy industrial guitar riff, which was very reminiscent of the heavy riffs of that band Ministry was using at the time. I thought it was a pretty cool song to kick off the album, as it had a lot of those heavy industrial riffs that were accompanied by their signature sound bites. This continues with the song Supercharger Heaven, which was one of their big hits. It was a very energetic song with a big groove metal style guitar riff. They also played some hard rock style guitar riffs just to add some variety. The song was pretty catchy, as it had this campy B-movie atmosphere that filled with these old sound clips. The best part of the song was during the breakdown. They play a clip of a priest saying some verses in Latin, and that was taken from the 1976 horror film To the Devil, a Daughter. And there was another line in the film, "It's not heresy, and I will not recant," is also spoken by the actor Christopher Lee, and that is sampled in the song. And if you didn't know, Christopher Lee is a metalhead, and he released a few solo albums. They made a music video. It features the band playing live on stage, and also has Alice Cooper making a brief appearance. It's followed by Real Solution Number 9, and this was a cool song because it was slower and sludgier, and Rob Zombie's vocals were very distorted. It was difficult to understand at first. The song reminded me a lot of the industrial music that was out at that time. I thought it was kind of a weird song, as the vocals sounded like nonsense, but I also liked the main guitar riff that they used. After this was a song called Creature of the Wheel. They really turned up the heaviness, and they began with a super heavy and crushing riff, which also had some of those weird sound bites that you would expect to hear from this band. Then there was another single called Electric Head Part 2, The Ecstasy. This was one of the lesser known singles from the album. A remix version of the song was the first track on the 1996 album Super Sexy Swing Sounds. The song contains audio samples from the 1971 movie Shaft, but here are some interesting trivia. The lyrics, "A fistful of hair and a splinter in the mind," refer to Lucio Fulci's 1979 film Zombie, in which a zombie grabs a woman by the hair and pulls her through a closet, causing this shard of wood to pierce her eye. They also had a music video. It shows the band playing in a circus of freaks, and they have these clowns and monsters, and they're all riding on a truck, so that's pretty cool. But I'll be honest with you, I don't remember this song as much. Recognize the other singles more, and I also haven't listened to this album in a while before preparing for this video. But I thought it was pretty cool. They followed up with Grease Paint and Monkey Brains, another one of those weird tracks. It begins with carnival music, and Rob Zombie does these really sleazy spoken word style vocals. This one also reminded me of the groove metal at that time, particularly the band Machine Head and their debut album Burn My Eyes. It was also more of an experimental track. It had a pretty cool guitar solo. The next song called iZombie, and this one was a little weird. It starts with a clip of a church choir, and they're singing, and it gets really wild. It starts to sound like a Slayer song with some big thrash style guitars. I thought it was one of the heavier songs that had more of that Ministry style industrial sound. It was a cool song because it had a lot of different sound effects, so you didn't know what was going on. Really quick, if you would like to become a member of this channel for 99 cents, you get early access to all my videos, and for $2.99, not only do you get early access, but you can request album reviews. There is a join button below or a link in the video description. The next song was probably the most recognizable song on the album, called More Human Than Human. This was the first official single from the album and also included on Rob Zombie's Past, Present, and Future, and the remix included on the Super Sexy Swinging Sounds and Revolutions album. The title and lyrics reference a novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which was written by Philip K. Dick, and it was also used in Blade Runner. And I must address the elephant in the room. The woman moaning in the intro was sampled from this post-apocalyptic Korn movie called Cafe Flesh. This was also the band's highest charting and most recognizable single, and earned them a second Grammy nomination for Best Metal Performance in 1995. The music video shows the band playing and has clips of old home video footage of Rob, his brother, and his cousin when they were younger. In 1995, Rob Zombie won the MTV Video Music Award for Hard Rock Video for this song. There are 3 more songs on the album. The next one is called El Fantasmo and the Chicken Rung Blastorama. This was an energetic track that had more of an industrial groove with this Pantera-style guitar riff. It was a cool song, had this creepy interlude in the middle, and included these haunting bells and some guitar shredding. This is followed by the song The Blur Technicolor, which was also kind of a weird song. The guitar sounded like the band Voivod in the first part. To be honest, the song was okay. It was not one of the more memorable ones. The album ends with a song called Blood, Milk, and Sky that had some of that psychedelic Beatles-sounding reverse guitar before it went into the industrial guitar riff. It was another song where Rob uses some of his lower-range spoken word vocals. The song was a little strange, but I liked the psychedelic sounds that were incorporated into the song. I want to talk about some of the key factors behind its success. First factor is that it was very innovative and mixed a lot of different genres within rock and metal. The album blended groove metal, industrial metal, and psychedelic rock, which created a unique sound that stood out in the mid-90s music scene. There was also Rob Zombie's use of horror film samples, distorted guitars, electronic programming, and varied vocal styles, which added a haunting yet accessible quality to the album, with tracks like More Human Than Human, which had these catchy riffs and these danceable grooves, and this appealed to both metal fans and the mainstream audience. The second factor was the high-quality production. This album was produced by Terry Date, who had worked with a lot of other big bands such as Pantera and Deftones. As a result, the album featured big drums, distorted guitar effects, and lots of electronic sounds. This was further enhanced with the addition of skilled musicians like drummer John Tempesta and the keyboardist and programmer Charlie Clouser. The third factor was that it was relevant. In other words, it was released at the right place at the right time. It was 1995. The album hit during the peak of the alternative metal boom. Bands like Korn, Tool, and Marilyn Manson were really gaining traction, and White Zombie's horror-themed, futuristic aesthetic really fit perfectly in that scene. The fourth factor was that it had a visual and thematic identity. As you know, Rob Zombie was obsessed with B-movies, sci-fi, horror, grindhouse cinema, so for that reason, it was reflected in everything from album art to music videos. This was something that resonated with fans looking for something darker and more theatrical. The fifth factor was that it gained strong momentum from the previous album, Las Exorcisto, Devil Music Volume 1, which was released in 1992. So they had already built a strong underground following with hits like Thunderkiss 65, And this album also capitalized on the momentum that pushed the band into full mainstream success. If you want to watch another video I did on Ron Zabi, check out the video that I did here on his Hellbilly Deluxe Volumes 1 and 2. I will stick that right there. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Please give the video a like. Helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you have not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.